Okay, we're back in business. Sorry, Anna.
Oh, it's fine. We can all stand here more prayers these days.
Especially knowing that they're being said over our Senate and House chambers.
Yeah, well, let's hope that the good Lord takes the actual intent and not what the Republicans are meaning by it.
Right. Their little prayers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm texting Chris. I emailed him. Hopefully he knew we meant to do this now. See if I can go back to sharing my screen again. I'm texting the call to Chris. He just messaged me.
I have to interrupt to show you what Nicole made at culinary school.
What is that? Is that something you actually eat?
Yes.
Like
here's one. Here's another. They're cake. And another. They're like the most amazing things.
Oh, it's like art. You can actually eat that?
Yes, here's another cake one.
That's amazing. So when can we start hiring her?
Nicole?
When she graduates.
When she graduates, she says.
All right.
I'm trying to log on to Zoom so I can see them.
Keep us posted. Yvonne, you're going to have to show Anna again because she was only.
Show me again.
Okay, these look like ice cream, but they are cake.
Oh, they're so cute.
There's the sundae. This is strawberry cake.
Oh my gosh.
Chocolate banana cake.
Nice.
And chocolate caramel cake.
She needs to graduate and sell those. I would buy them. I love cake.
And then bring over the whole cake. And then she made a cake. Let me see if I can spin this over so you can see it.
I can move it.
There's the cake.
Oh, beautiful.
It looks, I've seen worse at the Kroger. It's beautiful. Every Monday and Wednesday, we have so many delicious things to eat.
So, Chris is with us. Do you want to play the video? Do we want to kind of talk about it before we make our retraction? And I mean, we don't have to play everything we talk about, but just as a group, do we want to kind of discuss what's going on before we go into the recording of the retraction?
I would say just do the retraction and then move on and do what you're doing today and more fun and cool stuff.
Okay.
But it's up to Chris.
Chris, you're here. What do you want to do? Do you want to read what's on the letter? Do you want to watch the video parts that they're talking about? Did you see my email that what you said is different than what he said? Do you care? And you're muted, so I don't know if you're talking.
Yeah, I know. I was just asking.
Can you hear me now?
There you are, yes.
Okay. All right. Here I am. All right. What I don't understand, Anna, is I don't want to, I can just say I'm going to retract the statement. I don't have to say that the statement is untrue, because I really believe it is true, but I can't.
Correct.
I can't
I
prove it.
would say several of the statements. You can even just say I'm here to retract the following statements. Read their letter and move on, because as I understand from Gay, that's not even what you said, and you believe the statements are true. So what you're doing here is just insulating yourself from suit and nothing else, as long as we excise that portion from the video before we air it anywhere else, the old video.
Oh, okay, because I've made statements, even with, I have some documents, but I don't want to bring that up now, that when I made this type of statement to the FBI, I did give them stuff and talk to the FBI about this. I don't want to contradict or say that anything I said to the FBI was not true. So that's why
I think that is fine. You can just read the statements, or you can even say on the show, we did not provide supporting documents if you want to get nitpicky. But I would say just read the statements, say these were objected to, I am retracting them.
Okay, I'm retracting the following statement. Wall Street guys, I'm just going to read the quote. Okay, that's all I need to do.
So I have
just
another.
Make sure you retract exactly what they said, so that they can't come back and then just move on.
I've got it in front of me. Yep, I'm gonna do, because I know it's
okay.
They have to prove dollar. I mean, it's stupid, but
it's not a valid defamation suit, but anybody can sue anyone for anything, and JCPS has a lawyer on tap, and why waste time and money dealing with lawsuits?
Yep, great.
So one of the people I told this to said, why are you even bothering responding? They can't do anything. Like there's no, like Chris was saying, no proof of damage or anything, but the answer that I should give back to her is that we don't want to risk it. Why waste time with them? Because they know how to. They know how to.
They know how to make you spend money and time, and why waste our time and money on that? We're going to be sued for something real sooner or later, so let's save our resources for that. Yeah,
I'm fine. I'm ready to go on recording whenever you're all ready to do this, or how
the recorder's already running, but what I'll do is I'll edit out as soon as we decide that this is the part where we're starting and stopping, then I'll take that and I'll just put it out on YouTube, and we'll disseminate it the same way we disseminated the other video. It'll just be really short. So should I say something too, since I also got a cease and desist letter?
I would say, let Chris do his, and just say, I also retract any, those statements if I made them, or I retract, I say I agree that we are retracting those statements from the official recording.
That sounds good. Chris, your arm is kind of in your camera. Do you mind moving your arm? That's great.
Okay. All right. I'm retracting a statement I made on January 23rd, 2021, the following: Wall Street guys getting rich and kicking back to Brent McKim somehow, and can easily afford to kick back a few million. And this is where all of Brent's power come from, is those kickbacks.
And I am going to be removing those clips from the YouTube channel that they aired on, which was the Kentucky Pension Swan Song, which can also be found on our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
All right. I guess that's it. We can talk about the other stuff on the agenda until Joe gets here. He said he'd be through with his class around 4:15, and I told him we'd get started around 4:30, so we can kind of jump around. Chris, you're welcome to stick around. Anna, you're welcome to stick around. We're going to talk about some legislation. So let me share my screen again. And there might be some stuff on the agenda you guys are interested in. I had written out what the letter said versus what we actually said, what Chris actually said, in case anybody was interested in seeing that. I wanted to talk about the press conference that Kentucky Lions did yesterday morning. Kumar Rashad and Tyra Walker both spoke. about the back to school plans and used some really firm language, including keep your kids home and opt out of the test. And I think it was really powerful to see 2 Black JCTA leaders taking such strong stances, and hope that we see the union itself, union leadership, support and embrace these opportunities to amplify Black voices and not target and harass them. So, but as white accomplices, I just want to raise that flag and say, let's keep an eye out and make sure that that they don't experience any targeting from taking that stance. And let's support them and make sure we're also being heard. Joe's not here yet, so I wanted to talk about an opt-out game plan. So I guess we could talk about that in a minute. Let me just jump down here to legislative updates to see if Anna and Chris have anything.
Actually, Gay, for as I always say, for our listeners at home, as I say on the radio station, what is the current state of the law in Kentucky? Other states, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, have specifically passed laws that either with a letter that you produce on your own or a form you fill out says, I don't want my child taking whatever the high stakes test is, and I would like my child to be accommodated with an appropriate project instead. What's the law in Kentucky?
Can you see my screen?
I can.
Does that tell you?
It says that in the state, if you don't take the law, they'll give you a 0 and try to punish you.
That's what they say.
That is what the Kentucky School Boards Association says. And that's what KDE says. What has ever happened? Because I know a teacher who shall be nameless from Oldham County hasn't had her daughter take the test in donkey's years.
So there are, they'll give you a novice score. And so if you're trying to fast track to manual, that can really mess you up. So there are still ramifications, and they also don't let you do something else during the exam. You have to sit and stare, and you must not touch the test document at all. That's how you get your novice score. So it's got other.
It's punitive.
It's punitive, yes, and abusive, and kids can't. Then they bully the kids. They say, "This is going to be harmful to your teacher." Cry. I can't believe you wouldn't.
How could you do that to Miss Jones? Who's so sweet?
Exactly. So the kids end up taking the test. So this bill that is that Tina Bojanowski filed, that was a resurrection of a bill that Jason Nemus and Tiffany wrote 2 years ago, takes away the punishment. And let's see, that was this one. And we've got some opportunities. Nemus knows how to shop committees because we saw him do it for Senate Bill 250. So if he's truly supporting Tyra, he should be able to shop committees and get that out of the House. Otherwise, Osborne co-sponsored it in 2019. Tina's going to talk to Osborne and see if he'll co-sponsor it again. That'll give it some legs, perhaps. And then I think we need to plan some kind of action where we show up in Frankfurt, an education day in Frankfurt, where teachers work from their laptops, and we stand there with demands, and we say, pass House Bill, you know what, it's 579. I got the wrong number on this page. We talked about that on a call yesterday, so I wanted to bring it back up for the group and see what you guys, if you've thought about it anymore, and what do you think about Friday the 12th?
I think Friday the 12th sounds really good.
I do too. There's a Saturday rally in the square the following day. I'll be out of town though.
For the 12th?
Yeah.
Okay. When do you get back?
I'm out that Thursday through Sunday. 12th is a Friday, right?
Yeah, I thought about the banners on Mondays on the bridges. Maybe you could help with. We couldn't do it on a Monday though, could we? We couldn't do the teacher work remotely on a Monday.
It's hard for me to pull it off any day, but I could consider it. I gotta just work out the logistics.
All right, well, Joe just entered, so let's table that conversation and welcome our guest. I don't see him anymore. There he is. Hi, Joe.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
Excellent. How are you?
Hey, living the dream, right?
I'm gonna stop my share so we can all see each other.
I mean, don't switch too fast on account of me.
Well, let's go around the room real quick and just have everybody introduce ourselves, and we'll kind of kick off the meeting that way. And thank you so much, Joe, for joining us for this call today. Who wants to go first?
I'll be brave. I'm Yvonne Rivera. I'm the proud mother of 3 JCPS graduates. And one of them went to preschool, not in JCPS, but the other 2 from age 4 on till they graduated. They didn't have preschool, you know. when my oldest girl was a tot, and I teach Spanish to the cutest kids in the world at Wilder.
Greg Titchener, I'm a teacher with JCPS, and I remember you as the only board member I've seen traveling down my hallway at Waller William, and involved with some social and racial justice groups around town.
Hello, my name is Liv. I'm a senior at DuPont Manual. I am outreach editor on Manual Red Eye, and I am one of our student representatives.
Chris Tobe?
Yeah, Chris Tobe. I'm just active in the community. Have a daughter, a JCPS special needs daughter.
And Miss Anna?
I'm Anna White. I do not have any children in JCPS, but thank God mine are grown and graduated, and we're proud Franklin County and Kentucky State University grads, respectively. But I love education law and politics, and I hang around Gay and Yvonne to keep my life exciting and to help them out whenever they need a mean lawyer.
Yes, she does do that for sure. I'm Gay Adelman. You know who I am, I guess. Co-founder of Dear JCPS and Save Our Schools Kentucky. I serve on the board of the Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression, along with Greg. My son graduated from the Academy at Shawnee in 2016, which is how I became familiar of the racial injustices that exist in JCPS. And I've been fighting against dismantling structural racism ever since. Or I guess I've been fighting against structural racism ever since. And Joe, you want to introduce yourself and kick it off and maybe tell us a little bit about the board vote and how we could tell from watching how agonizing it was, but just tell us a little bit about it.
So Joe Marshall, I am District 4 Board Representative on JCPS Board of Education. Been in this role now, be 2 years, and come this August, or September, like late August, early September. So, how I came to the board was a new procedure in which former member in this role, Ben Geese, had resigned. And based on new Kentucky state statutes, the board was charged with appointing someone to the seat. So I had applied and through a process was selected, and then had to go through a November election. I had to go through another election this past November, but we were lucky to be unopposed, because I will tell you now, when it comes to the political cycle, I don't think that anything could have prepared me for just the amount of work and grind that is. I'm an educator. I teach 5th grade at the West End Boys School. I've been there. I'm in my 4th year there. I taught 4 years in JCPS before that. So I'm coming up on a decade now of elementary classroom experience. So, that's kind of how I look at my role on the board, is looking at it from a teacher perspective. I know all the things that existed in JCPS that caused me to kind of lose faith in whether or not they could assist me in reaching some of my education goals and helping students. So when this opportunity came along, it was kind of an opportunity for me to step into that role, not only to be a teacher voice, but to also learn for myself, what goes into a lot of these decisions. So I think that leads us to Thursday. And you can't, I'll start off by this past year, I think if anyone feels normal, then I need your notes and how you made it happen, because I've experienced things just in my household with how life shuts down, having to pull my daughter out of activities. She's an only child. She's 5 years old. So, to see her cry that she can't go to school and see her friends and she can't go visit her cousins. And I think she's adjusted better than I have. So I think that everyone, especially since vaccine rollout, turn of the year, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary, people are looking for some sign of things moving in a positive direction. And so, the board's been dealing with this for 4 or 5 months, thousands upon thousands of phone calls, emails, parents, teachers, legislators, city officials. I mean, there's so many different angles, and people all have a legitimate claim, for yes or no, whether we should go back or we should not. Everybody's reasoning is understandable. And so just in that moment, it's trying to take all of that in and just say, what's going to be the best step forward. And so, like I told someone, it's your head connects with your heart and your heart connects with your gut, and you go with it and you make that decision and you stand by it and you say, we're going to do everything in our power to make it happen. So, that's kind of, where it came from and where that was. But, the feedback has been equal. We know it's split. Every demographic really, once again, has their reasoning. So any opportunity to talk to those like yourselves who are so invested in the community, who have your ear to the street and to the ground, especially from a lens of dismantling racial inequality and providing equity, I have to make myself available to that, not to just spew my understanding and opinion, but to listen and to learn as well. So that's kind of the roundabout of it.
Well, I appreciate that introduction. And let me just pause for a second and say Nicole Finley just joined us. Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself to Joe Marshall?
Hello, my name is Nicole Finley. Gay, why are you putting me on the spot? I am Nicole Finley. I'm a parent.
We've already gone around.
First and foremost.
Sorry.
Okay, parent first and foremost. I've got 2 kids in JCPS. I've got 2 that have graduated. Fierce advocate for them. That's pretty much who I am. How was that, Gay? Put me on the spot.
Sorry about that. You joined after we had already gone around the room. So
hello, everybody. Sorry, I was totally unprepared.
That's okay. Nicole also just recently ran her, won her race for a seat on the JCTA board. So
Woo-hoo.
Congratulations.
I know, right? Yay.
So we could tell from watching the Zoom meeting, the board meeting Thursday night, that was an agonizing decision that you made, and it looked like you had not made your decision until the words came out of your mouth. Is that a true story?
Oh yeah, that's 100% correct. And I think that part of that is some people don't trust public officials because public officials make up their minds before they even get all the information. They've already got their agenda. They already know what they're going to do. They're just going to vote their personal opinion at the end of the day. So why even reach out? Why to talk to them? They're not going to listen. So, you know, some other board votes are easy. You know, that makes sense. But coming back to school in a pandemic, I honestly, you know, like if I'd have said no, I'd have the equal amount of things to talk about why it was no versus why it was yes. So I think in that instance, it was all the information we received for 4 to 5 months. And then, you know, you do the best you can with it.
Well, let's see if some folks on the call have some questions they'd like to ask you. Does anybody want to start?
I have a question. I guess my question I just really am struggling to understand. Why is it that it's not a choice for everyone to return? Like the same way that parents have a choice, why is it that teachers cannot have a choice whether or not to return?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And that's one that we posed to the superintendent, and we have pressed him hard about, you know, being able to provide those recommendations and accommodations for teachers who are unsure about returning to the building. I'm an educator myself, and my school has a back to school plan that really just has a date, but we've received nothing as far as, you know, what does that look like? And so I understand. Now, if I had what JCPS put forward and from the doctors and everything else and PPE being provided, I'd be a whole lot more confident returning to my own building. So that's part of it for me. And I think the other part is, you know, teachers being able to have what they need to feel confident. So we know that majority of students right now are choosing to come back in person. It's a 60-40 split amongst all the demographics. Some demographics lean more way or the other. And I'll talk about how equality and equity really leads us not to trust those survey results, because I think we have a lot of work to do to reach our vulnerable populations. So a lot of times I see those numbers for our ESL group, our Black students, our Hispanic students, and I just know that there's a curve there because we really haven't done our due diligence in making sure that we reach those populations, but that's otherwise. So, you know, if it was possible to have a split where every teacher who wanted to stay home had the option to stay home, then I think that would be best case scenario. But we know from the numbers of students who want to come back, the district is pushing hard to allow those who need to work from home, and then provide other solutions for those who would feel more comfortable at home, but we can do, you know, things within the building to rise their confidence.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just to follow up, I have another question in a completely different direction, but I mean, I'm a little confused at of teachers being asked to do, they were given a medical note saying that they've been approved for accommodation and can do their teaching from a remote location, but now remote location has been, the district is apparently trying to translate that to mean we want you in your room to do your remote teaching from every day. And then along those same lines, so it seems like we're asking people to make a lifelong career decision around concerns for their health, which has big human and civil rights implications for me. And then I'm the way I watch these board meetings and it say, oh yeah, they can switch from in-person to selection to virtual. Well, I had one parent say they wanted to do that and was followed up by a call saying that if they choose the virtual, it's going to be a new teacher altogether. They're going to be expected 7:40 a.m. sharp every morning, and the day's going to go all the way to 2:40, or there's going to, I don't know if they mentioned consequences that went with that, but it seemed to me to be pressuring one decision over another.
Okay, and that's, Greg, honestly, that's the, if you watch the board meeting on Thursday, I got on my soapbox a little bit and talked to the district about communication issues. And, as an educator in this district, it's a problem because one thing gets presented to the board, teachers hear another thing, administrators get one message, that goes to the parents. Somewhere along the line, we've got to figure out how this breakdown of communication happens. So to your first point, that was my initial understanding, is those who were going to be given the opportunity to work remotely, that they were going to be able to work remotely from home, like we've all worked from home this entire time, which makes sense to me that if you have an accommodation due to health reasons, that being in the building shouldn't be the best option, for that person. Also, I'm considering the understanding that buildings are going to need additional space. So if we've got someone teaching remotely from their room, a room that could be utilized to space out students more, yet we've got one person sitting in that room, that's something I intend to raise at the next board meeting, because these are unprecedented. Now is not the time, with all the stuff we all go through, to put your foot on people's neck. No, it's a time for grace. It's a time for all of us to figure out a way to navigate to the end of this school year. So you bring up some great points, some things that I thought were understanding, and other things that I don't think get all the way to the board, so that we can make, the board's job is not to do the day-to-day, but our job is to make sure that our policies align with the goals of the district and what's best for student achievement. So in order to do that, we have to make sure that when that policy or that plan gets approved, that down the line, it reaches student success. And so, if we're presenting a message that's making people almost want to lean towards coming back in the building in order for whatever reason, then that's something that we need to fix.
I have a question, and that is,
Thank you.
I understand. First of all, I'm glad elementary is going hybrid. You have little girls, so what the littles are like. And I love them. Don't I have the cutest kids in the world? But, if they were coming back 5 days a week, keeping them 6 feet apart, just shoot yourself. That's basically it. Even if you get 60% of your kids, half of 60 every day, you can keep them apart, but the other way. So thank you for that. But one of the things I was thinking is, how are the decisions made on what is being decided on a district level and what is being decided on a school level? And the reason I say that is that parents are people too. And so I can just see a parent going, I'm at Wilder, and we are not letting parents in. You had a dental appointment, so you're rolling in around 10 o'clock, no problem. You call, we walk to the car, we collect the child, we bring the child in. Same thing, I gotta leave early. Boris, people get to leave the house without you. Sorry about that. Okay. If somebody leaves the house without him, he can let you know about it. You know, same thing at the
Y'all
other
and
end of
these
the day.
dogs
You
are
know, you
cracking me
come, you're
up.
picking up
I
your
know
kid for
animal
speech
lovers,
therapy or the doctor or whatever, right?
Yes.
Same thing. We'll take them out to you, whatever. But you know how people are. And they'll say, well, my daughter who's at Camerer, they let us in the building. I think there are several things that have been, it would be better if it were centralized, because then they can't say, I don't understand why you make us do it when the other school doesn't make us do it. So,
No, you,
and the
it
parent,
is.
the
It is.
visitors in the building is the one that I think of the most.
Yeah. Well,
Because
there are, and that's something that I raised with Dr. Polio in this discussion about a return to school. I think our biggest gift in JCPS is also our biggest hurdle, and that's our diversity. I think that because we are so different within this city, depending on what part you live in, you come from a different life experience. You experience different things day to day. Your way of living is different, and so in a lot of ways we have to be flexible to that. That's what I feel hasn't been done in education overall. When we talk about equity and really chiseling at the foundation, a lot of these schools feel like there's this framework of education that's meant to make people of color fit into a white world from this perspective. And so all of our policies, all of our behavior guidelines, everything we do is meant for this lens. And we don't expand that to say, let's be inclusive of everyone and how they operate. So when buildings are given that opportunity to say, look, you know, we're Shawnee High School. So the little policy about this, that's not how we operate down here. That's not going to help us because, you know, my families need this. We have to allow for that. And so that's why this back to school during a pandemic is such a tough decision, because I raised that concern. You know, some schools I believe are more prepared than others. I believe that some schools probably could have had their elementary kids back 5 days a week and had the staff to do it and the technology and the resources and the space and the ventilation. But majority of our schools, some of them should have been run more like NTI camps, where we're bringing back really small pods of kids. And that's the point I raised. You know, what's the issue with that? Well, you said it. Parents are people too. And so what do you get? Well, my son goes to Height Elementary. He gets to go back 5 days a week. But my kid at Carrot can only go on Thursday, Friday. And so that's the superintendent's point, also general counsel from a law standpoint of giving everybody the equal opportunity. So you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, you know, what's going to give everybody equal access, but what they need the most. And I think that you make your decision based on that. But I totally agree. We have to allow our buildings more autonomy to just be uniquely who they are and identify with their own personal populations.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. I'd like to respond to that, but before I do, I want to pause for a second and introduce Danita Wright. Do you know Joe Marshall, Danita? He's one of the school board members. Thursday night, the school board voted to return to an in-person system, in-person schedule. And Joe is the one who made the deciding vote. His vote was the one that pushed it over to yes. So there's a lot of pressure on Joe. He's been feeling some pressure. So we invited him on to talk about that and talk about the what went, you know, what he agonized over when he made that decision to return to in-person school. There was some legislation. House Bill 208 was mentioned as one of the reasons. So I'd like to see if we can talk a little bit about that. I want to respond to your accurate statement about schools needing to be able to operate under their own needs, but unfortunately that's not the way it works, at least not in my experience, because there's so much scrutiny on the schools that struggle the most. So they're the ones that are under the microscope and have the least amount of autonomy, even when you give it to them. In fact, when you give it to them, then they create extra systems and extra checks and balances and extra reports and extra bullying and intimidation tactics, and keep focusing on the tests when that's one of the uncertainties right now. Are we returning because somebody somewhere needs tests? And you know, we've been fighting privatization since this whole thing started. Since all of us have gotten into the work, it's always led back to the privatization agenda. And so, you know, we already know that tests are harmful even before the pandemic. And we also know that there are people at local, state, and national levels that are trying to figure out a way to get their agenda, their version of, their flavor of privatization implemented. And so having those protections in place, where our local board supported us and fought against privatization, where our state governor was fighting against privatization, where our president promised to stop standardized tests, like we thought we were golden. And here it is happening. And, you know, you were our last line of defense. And again, I don't mean to put pressure on you, but you made that vote. And so I just feel like my frustration was seeing reasoning be like House Bill 208, because it's going to do this and that anyway, but that bill hasn't passed. It's almost as if our school board is forgetting who we are and what we've accomplished thus far, and how we sicked out, and how we got board members replaced, and how we got a superintendent replaced. And, you know, our it's a pandemic and things are different, but we are still paying attention. We're still trying to be heard. And several of the people on this call ran for office in JCTA because they're trying to be heard. They're trying to elevate voices, especially marginalized voices, voices of color. And so, you know, it's just really challenging and frustrating to see everybody trading in all of our chips instead of letting us just do what we do, you know? From the district leadership to the union leadership to our school board to our state leaders, etc. So I'm sorry, I'm just venting and expressing some frustrations, but I'll pause and let you respond if you'd like, and then also see if Danita has any questions.
No, and you're perfectly right, Gay. You know, I'm the second to youngest in terms of tenure on the board. And so, you know, coming into your seat, you take as much information as you have of, you know, what movements have been happening, you know, what groups are really pushing for equal access to education. And you're right, the state has done so much to try to continue to stick their foot in our business. Even if you look at current legislation that they're pushing that'll limit powers of the governor and of the city of Louisville, and it's like, that's one of those things that honestly was on my mind because it hasn't passed yet. But I think part of us know that all they need is just a little bit of ammunition to try to continue to come down on us in any way. So, you know, I can't say that it wasn't a bit of that. I don't think it was the deciding factor, but I mean, it was definitely something that me and a few other board members had discussed, is that sooner or later, if we make the decision or not, the feeling is that the state is going to push for everybody to come back in person in some shape or form. And so the bill is supposed to go before the Senate this week. And so we'll see what comes out of that. But I think that at the end of the day, you know, it is our job to, and I mean, as board members, to have those conversations with community leaders and community members. So that's why I continue to be open to meetings like this and meetings in the future, because it is just going to better inform our decisions going forward. And for someone like me who isn't used to going up against the state like some of you have, it would be nice in those moments to know that there's some fighters in the corner that will and have before fought back and won. So I would definitely love to team up on those ends.
Yeah, Mr. Marshall, Danita Wright, and I'm associated with the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhood Associations. And we hold meetings every Wednesday from 5 to 6. And I'm here because when people like you are in seats that can make a difference, you know, like we're the fighters from the outside. But like you said, you need to get in touch with people that are on the outside and are the parents. They are the parents. They are the people that are fighting for the equity and equality for all children in the schools. You do need to get with us. I understand your colleagues with you. You may think that they, you know, have an agenda to better the schools for the kids. If they did, the schools would be running much better. Wouldn't you think so?
Oh, yes, ma'am. No, I
So
definitely, yes, ma'am.
So there's something going on with the school board that for some reason they're not, you know, doing their job or whatever to help the students. So you've got more and more organizations such as these kind of meetings and everything, because there's multiple organizations on here, but we're growing. And so you got to ask that question, why so many organizations fighting for better education for kids? You know, we have a school board that's the heart of our representation, our voices to make the schools better for our children. So if they're in place and the schools aren't doing very well, then you have to point it. If I was the CEO of a business and the board is asking the CEO what's going on with our business, you know, that CEO better come up with some answers or get replaced. When you're in that seat, Mr. Marshall, and I don't mean to put no pressure on you because you are new, but
You're fine.
I'd like for you to understand how important these meetings, for you to join in with these meetings. And don't stay away from your colleagues, but try to get that balance from both your colleagues and these meetings. And then think for yourself. I've ran into legislators, Mr. Marshall. I know you're not a legislator. I'm going up. These are the people I've ran into all the way to Congress. I've been up to Congress. And I found that they vote according to how their colleagues vote. We've got to stop that and start thinking for ourselves. That's all what I would.
Oh, no, and I appreciate that, and I 100% agree. And I think that was part of my struggle on Thursday. Was not that I voted with some people, but you know what came out was really my heart and my choice. And so I think that, you know, part of it is that there, you know, and working with legislators and officials, there's politics at every level. And so there's jostling going on, and who can you get to come over on this side, and who can you get to listen to this, and these people make this point on why you should go with them, and these make this point. And on Thursday, it was both voices in my ear, put them out and just say what you feel. So, and I appreciate that. And I agree that there is a lot of pressure on boards of education to make a difference. And so what I tell a lot of people, and like you said, going up, it's tough a lot of times. What I've learned, you know, being new to this, that a lot of the stuff is trickled down and then the board has to deal with it. But it's like, in order for us to do this, we would need to take care of that and tear that down and get that out of the way. It's like, for example, we're having long conversations before COVID. We were talking about new student assignment plan. and building schools in West Louisville. Well, when we talk about that, then we start to get into conversations about redlining and what led to these neighborhoods to be this way. And if we put this building here, you know, how we're going to combat the diversity of the building. Well, the school board and the school system didn't, you know, put all those residents there. So you get all this that falls down on you to make the best. So any help that we can get, because those foundations are deep when you try to start tearing down things for equity, because I don't know, it's like when you tear up an old floor in a house you're renovating. It's like you took up the carpet and now there's linoleum under that, and then you got to tear the linoleum up and there's hardwood under that, and you just, it's layers and layers. And I'll be honest and I'll be transparent, I get frustrated sometimes because I'm like, that problem created this, and now we got to do this, and we don't have the funding for this. And so I agree. I think that more board members do need to spend their time getting ideas for how we can together organize better to dismantle these layers of oppression so that we can start to have that progress. And I could talk for days about it. You know, little things like changing curriculum. Well, then you ask yourself, well, who's going to write the curriculum? And from what lens are they writing? And who's going to teach it? Well, now we've got to go back to recruiting more minority teachers or more teachers from this demographic. So there's a lot that we have to wade through to get to our schools where they need to go. But I agree, there's a lot of first steps that we can start taking, or not even first steps. I won't say that, because groups like this have taken a lot of steps, and some of us need to catch up to where you are. So I will say that as well.
Can we look at that house analogy that you just used really quickly?
Yes,
When you look
ma'am.
at that house, tearing up the floors, you know, having to hammer down those woods, you know, all the money, and when you tear stuff up, and there's always a new problem, and there's always a new problem, there's always a new problem, right? We've already been there, done that,
Yep.
right? But we continue to build, and because we're invested in the house. So we need to invest in our kids in such a way. So when I say our kids are worth fighting for, right? They are. There's not a splinter that's not worth hammering out. So when we use those kinds of analogies, sometimes that can be a little bit concerning, because we got to keep the main thing, and that's building a strong foundation. And that starts with our kids. So it starts at the top when we sign up to be on these school boards, right? When we're in there, we're not there to make friends. We're not politicians. We're in there to be the biggest and loudest, strongest advocates for our kids, period. Now, when the school board functions that way, then they will get that type of support, right, from that community. Now, when you talk about that 60-40 split, you know, let's look at that. From that 60-40, how many of those people are white or non-Black people? How much percentage of that is the Black people? So we talk about what's equitable. Are we really taking an authentic look at how these decisions are negatively affecting the most vulnerable students? No, we can't make everybody happy. But again, when we keep the main thing, then I think that you'll continue to get faith from the community and support from the community, right? Because if you look at the scores, there's a reason why the Black kids are scoring so poorly, why that gap is so large. If we don't invest in those kids, if we don't get to these places and spaces and make the main thing, how will we ever move upward? Does that make sense? And I just struggle with that when I've had to go through my own personal struggles to just see how broken our system is. You know, I had a child who was suicidal over some things that happened within JCPS. And let me tell you, when you see a child, you put bells on your child's doorknob, you learn it. It's one thing to teach kids who have, you know, mental health issues, but when you're growing one, when you're raising, when you have one in your household, it's a whole different story. When you know that those things and a lot of those things surface from a broken system, that's hurtful. And we have to look at things that way. We have to, not just my kid, all of our kids are worth fighting for. And I really do think that we get distracted, like you said, with the redlining and things like that. And that does not need to be the distraction. That's just an obstacle that they just have to overcome. Move it out the way. You know, if you can't move the mountain, if you can't climb it, go around it. But at the end of the day, our kids, every single one of them are worth fighting for. When you look at our little Black and brown kids and how they suffer and how they're left behind, it just has to get to a point that people at the top, we have to make them the main thing, especially when you're in spaces and places when others don't. So that I do appreciate everything that you're doing. And I felt my heart, and as a father, I'm sure your heart was breaking too, wanting to make the right decision. But I think sometimes those decisions are easier when you keep the main thing, the main thing. So that's just my 2 cents. But thank you.
No, and you're 100% correct. And I think that that's the thing too. Public officials, elected officials should be held accountable. And so the understanding is if you make a decision or you're doing something, you have to be willing to stand up to constituents and have a conversation and talk about keeping the main thing the main thing. And so when we talk about, you know, building this house, there is a conversation of, you know, are we building a house that's forever going to be broken anyway because, you know, somebody's always looking to dismantle it? You know, or are we building this house for the benefit of somebody else? Are the materials we're using to build this house even created? You think about all the houses that have lead paint in them, you know, in a lot of places. Like I taught in a school in JCPS that they said, yeah, we can't replace the chalkboards because there's asbestos behind them. And I'm like,
right.
So what are we in this building? So
I heard that.
but those are the serious things that we talk about, is the fact that we do have a lot of those schools that should have been shut down a long time ago, but other people had other agendas on how to build this house that didn't include our most vulnerable kids. And so it puts them in a bad spot that a lot of times it is our Black and brown kids. And to your other point about testing and scores, you know, part of it is inequities in education, but part of it is the system in which we test in the first place, because I don't believe that that test is representative of the lived experience of our kids. So teaching in elementary, I tell people all the time, I have had kids teaching in California Park at Wheatley Elementary who were some of the best and brightest kids ever. But you give them that test, it's a novice or an apprentice, and they say, well, they learned all year long. They worked their tails off. They're super intelligent and smart. Is that test does not speak to their lived experience. So when they see that math equation or that math word problem, they don't understand what Jillian is talking about.
Right.
I don't know that. But if you give it to me the way I understand and the way my life is, oh, I can answer that problem. I can talk about it all day. So I think that that's the layers that I'm talking about too, is we can push our kids and we have a lot of achievement, but if we're just relying on this thing that says, okay, here's the box and where our kids aren't supposed to fit in boxes. They're supposed to exceed expectations. So that there's this climb that it's like you're forever trying to tear this down to get to this, to move that, to move this, to get the funding for this, so that you can build this, so that you can hire this, so you pay these people more. And it's just forever of, okay, let's, like you said, let's stop being distracted. Let's think about what's the next best thing for our kids that we can take as far as our step forward.
Because those testing, getting back to that, think about those Black and brown kids in white spaces where there's a lot of rigor. There's a reason why Black and brown kids are not enrolling or being invited to enroll in AP courses, right? So think about the anxiety level that comes along with that, because that test was not designed for them, or they were not, you know, that struggle, that teacher does not teach that. Again, if people in those places and spaces don't openly and fiercely advocate for those kids, then it's just like, you know, again, like what you said, it's that vicious cycle.
And it's a conversation as well in, you know, the district has taken some initiatives to attract minority teachers. And once again, it's one of those first steps, but it's not going to make a huge dent the way that we need it to, because research tells us that having teachers of color improves learning for all kids. And so it's not just how can we get more Black and brown teachers in our Black and brown schools. Now, how can we get more Black and brown teachers everywhere in this district? To pay people what they're worth, I think, is another part of it. But to also understand that traditional teachers, when I grew up, all teachers were, ladies who had husbands that made all the money and they just did this for fun. And no, like people are requiring this. Look, I am the sole breadwinner in my household and I'm a teacher. No, you have to be paid what you're worth for
Right.
your time because it's extremely difficult. And then, especially, and I'll talk for Black teachers from my experience, is we are easily disinterested. So the second that we see that you don't care, oh, we will check out. And the second that we see that we're being used or not being supported, and a lot of that goes for teachers in general, but so I think that there's a lot of things.
Well, I gotta cut you off right there because that's Gay. You ain't gotta tell him my story, but Gay can tell you that's certainly not my experience. Because if you don't care, that's not going to be a thing. I'm not going to ever, not for my Black kids nor my white kids. I'm going to care to the end. That's number one. And if you treat my kids wrong, I will advocate for you, even though I might be the only little piece of pepper in the whole salt, in the whole little salt shaker. I just, you have to do that to the very, very end. And sometimes you got to take one for the team. And we need more people to take one for the team in advocacy of our kids. So I hear what you're saying, though.
No,
I hear what you're saying, though, because I do.
Yeah, it's just bad wording, but yes,
it's not bad
it's
word.
not
it's
that
reality.
it's not that we stop caring about the kids, but I stopped donating all my energy to that organization. Because if I see that, I got in teaching for the mentorship side of it. I got into teaching because I knew I could make an impact. But once all the paperwork and the rigmarole of this and that got involved, and you're forcing me as a teacher to do stuff to my kids that I know is damaging them, like I just couldn't operate in that space. So I had to go find a different space to go care about kids.
Well, that's what teachers feel like with going back to school right now. They feel like they feel like the district don't care. We're expendable.
Well, and that's the case. So that was the discussion. The discussion was that teachers, once again, don't feel supported and they are worried about returning because the communication from the district about what's being provided, there's something missing there. So the board gets one set of information that says, here's the things that are being done. And then that goes to administrators and then that goes to teachers. But somewhere along the way, teachers aren't getting the message that all these things are going to be available. All these things will happen. And so that to me is the best that we can do to ease teacher fear, is to meet the expectations of teachers.
Can I add something?
Yes, go ahead.
In your explanation of teachers getting information, I know that one thing that I feel was missing is the two-way communication. The information coming from teachers to administration and to decision makers seems to have been skipped. Any teachers want to chime in on that?
I think they're communicating. I just think it's not consistent across all schools. Some principals are doing a superb job, I think. And I just think some of them just struggle a bit. But I think that there are some principals, I've got some friends of mine who are principals and they're doing a great job. And, but I know some people who, they just struggle a bit, I'm
referring to Kenyatta's CRC meetings and the information that the rank and file members had to organize in order to just even create space to start hearing from teachers. Anyone else want to talk about that? Great.
I was going to mention, how can we be down 70 nurses, however many custodians and bus drivers 2 weeks from the start of school and feel comfortable that we've got it put together? I mean, I think I've been around the school district long enough, and I don't think it's too cynical to say we know what's going to happen. You're just not going to get a sub for your room at Waller Williams, or you're just not going to have those extra custodians. So you're not going to have the capacity to clean like you in a robust fashion. And things are going to slip through the cracks. And I really struggle with, we need to be looking at something a lot closer to zero and positivity rate for that scenario. And I think we're fooling ourselves if it's just magically going to happen and work. So there's got to be some recognition that we're rolling the dice here, and when we don't necessarily have to be. And I know too that there's other considerations involved, but that's been my perspective, and supported. Not really. No, you're going to promise me that person that never shows up to help out, and I know how that works.
And I think, Greg, what you're alluding to as well is the issue that's been prevalent in JCPS for the longest time. And teachers are used to that, to the point where that's the understanding. I mean, I felt that way when I taught in JCPS. You tell me one thing, but I know what's really going to happen. And so my job as sitting in my seat on the board is to make sure that whatever central office leadership from the superintendent down are saying is going to be available will be available. And if it is not, then we have to hold that leadership accountable and make the decisions that if these things aren't in place. So one thing that we heard on Thursday was, we haven't hired these people because we don't have a date. Okay, well, now you have a date. Get them hired. So next board meeting on March 9th, that's the question. Did we get them hired? Okay, how many did we get hired? Of the ones that we have hired, is that enough to adequately do the job of keeping everybody safe? Oh, if the answer is no, then we need to reconsider some things. So that's where the board has an opportunity to step up and say, okay, we got to reconsider this. It doesn't look like we're going to be ready next week because these people didn't get in place. So do we need to look at this date for elementary schools and push it back a week, 2 weeks? You know, what needs to happen? And so when central office says we need a date, you know, that was part of it for me as well. Well, here's the date, get it done, make sure it's in place. And if it's not, let's reconsider and do what's safer.
So, but if you find that there are some schools or some plans that aren't ready, do you just delay the opening of those schools, or do you delay the whole district?
That's the thing. We would have to delay the whole district. So
nobody wants to be that school that admits that they have a problem that caused the whole district to not open. So what ends up happening is people sweep things under the rug, people cover things up, people get retaliated against for raising the issues. We've seen it. How do we know it's going to be different? This is why we were opposed. Why should we trust that this time it's going to be different when there's been no evidence, none whatsoever? And here we are in a pandemic where it's much more impactful to our students of color and our families of color and our educators of color, and we're supposed to defer to the underdog and the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, and we're not. We seem to have sided with soccer moms and East End white privileged families, let them learn families seem to have beaten the game. That's just how it looks to me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't apologize like that. And I think that that's the thing. Like, we have to think about ourselves as a larger community. And so to think about, you know, what is best going forward. And I agree. I think that it is our job to think about how we can do the best for those who will be impacted the most. So it's our job to step up to the plate, or these things still exist. Like you said, there is no trust that it can happen, because every other time that we put something before to say we'll be there, you don't show up. And we have to eliminate this attitude, because I mean, it is, you're correct. There is a system of bullying and intimidation amongst certain schools who don't feel comfortable saying, I don't know, and I'm not comfortable. And is this going to work? Because they don't want to rock the boat. Well, we need to rock the boat a little bit more, especially on the school level. Because like we said, it is difficult to make unilateral decisions for 155 schools that are all built different, look different, and are activated differently. Once again, I would love to have had a system where every school had the opportunity to choose the option that worked best for them in their building. But that was obviously shut down from the standpoint of providing everybody with equal access.
So Kenyatta Dean Bacon has joined us, and I want to give her a chance to introduce herself to you. And
Me and Kenyatta go back. We graduated ACES together.
Oh, good. That's right. She did tell me that. And when we were referring to the CRC organizing and getting teacher input, that was Kenyatta's idea, even though the district leadership took credit for it. I just wanted to, she may be too humble to point that out, so I will.
Now, you know, I'm not too humble to brag.
Right.
Get it, got
it. Hey, Joe, of course, you know me, Kenyatta Dean Bacon, ACES 2011.
Hey, you know it.
Yep, it was the last of the greatest, I'm telling you.
Hey, I'm telling you, we're the last group that got thrown into classrooms. Right, just trial by fire. Just, here's your partner, y'all two, here's your room, go teach. Right?
Yeah, we still winging it to this day.
Hey, if you could come see my room and what I'm doing at the West End School, I ain't gonna say too much out loud, but I was like, I thought I didn't have much in JCPS, but I'm flying by the seat of my pants a lot of days. But we make it happen, and kids are learning, and we have a good time.
We all doing the best we can every day. Hopefully that does not turn out to the detriment of our babies. And that's all we can do at this point, is just keep hoping that we are doing what's in their best interest. I reached out to you before, Joe. I've reached out to you before the meeting, and I've reached out to you after the meeting. You know, I love you. I get it. You are tied to making some really difficult decisions. I think that the longevity of the plan is definitely something that we have to keep in mind. I'm really nervous about our preparation for opening of schools. I'm very concerned. I don't know if you remember when I first reached out to you in January about the return plans, because on the JCTA pages, the conversations, it started to peak. Teachers started asking questions. They started getting nervous. You could obviously see the tension about what this was going to look like stirring. And we noticed that there just wasn't a lot of answers. There was a lot of posts that were going up, but nobody was responding to them because legislators were getting ready to go in and start talking about the pension. And so there was a lot of focus on those questions, and just not a lot on the return. And so I really appreciate my new group of friends who will sit down and talk with me about those anxieties and are always willing to help me plan out how we could actually have a positive impact on that. And so Yvonne, Greg, and Tia and I, we all got together on multiple occasions and discussed holding these meetings where we as PRs were going to have the discussion and look at the district plans, look at the individual school plans, and then go back to our schools and talk to the members in our class, in our buildings, about what the plans look like and what kind of suggestions do we need to make, and not just to the district plans, but for our individual school plans. And so we started meeting. January 29th was our first meeting. And we've met every Friday since, except for one with nobody showed up for because JCTA had a meeting at the same time that day as we did. But so the CRCs was basically a grassroots effort to try and help with some of those anxieties that we saw, not being really squelched with any type of solution. So when we went through the district plan, we outlined so many concerns, and I appreciated the ones that the board came up with, but I mean, teachers saw so many other areas of concern along with it. And so I forwarded to you, and I shared it with you here recently. You asked me to give you entry on that document. The glows and grows, glows being things that we saw were good. And if you notice, there was lots and lots of grows, lots of areas where teachers were very concerned. We went through that, and then it took several meetings to go through the district plans. And then we spent a couple of evenings looking at the individual school plans. And we looked at our individual schools plans and said, just everybody who came on the call opened up their school's plans that was posted on the website. And then we looked at each area and said, okay, well, we're gonna look at arrival and dismissal plans. What do you all have that you like? What do you think that we could use? And there were some schools that had they are doing great things in some buildings. There are some buildings who have looked at feasibly what it's gonna look like coming back and started planning accordingly. And I appreciate the forethought that a lot of administrators had for that. They were talking about staffing issues and the mental health of the students. And so some of those things, I'm in awe of their leadership for that reason. But there are quite a few schools out there that don't have a plan that looks like that. And they are literally right now starting to build the ship. And this thing is going to fly, and waiting to the last minute on decisions that affect the safety of us is scary, especially because I feel like a lot of those schools that were really banging on the hopes that we were not going to be returning face-to-face because of our county being in the red, and because the community's response to COVID not being taking it seriously. And that's what I see the red is right now, is just our community is not taking COVID precautions seriously. And as a result of that, they didn't make plans. And so now they're like, okay, well, we're gonna have to get it together. And this 9th hour planning, I feel as if it can hold a lot of areas for concern. So I think that it's important for us not to just see the glasses half full right now, because I'm just having a hard time finding that positive side of things. The glass is half empty, and we really need to be serious about how we move forward. So I'm hoping that as you all continue to meet, that you discuss the importance of us closing up those gaps for staffing, because we know how important it is to have enough bus drivers, not just have a plan for how you're going to figure it out, because I hear the bus drivers are not happy. They're scared too. And I think Reverend Schul tried to talk about that the other day. I think he talked about the inequity in putting predominantly Black bus drivers who have the same health concerns as a lot of our community in front of kids who may or may not have COVID, who may or may not keep their face mask on, who may or may not, pass them a virus that could cost them their life. So I think that that should definitely kind of weigh whether or not, any emotions in the current future, like March 9th, when you all have to decide when you're going face to face for the first time as a board. That's a big decision. I think that right there will be a major moment, thinking that you all are going to have to be in a space with other people now,
Well, and not to cut you off, but to tell you, like, we've received no plan for what our in-person meeting will look like, but you know, I mean, you're correct in all of your assessments, in that the district has to step up. And as I said before, what we heard Thursday in response to a lot of those staffing issues was, well, we don't have them hired because we don't have a date. Well, now you got dates. Get it done. And then on March 9th, the question will be asked. Have you had these people hired? How many did you get hired? Is that an adequate number of people to carry out this plan successfully? And if the answer is no, then there can be some reconsiderations made for the board looking at dates and saying, okay, do we need to push back? You know, what else do we need to reconsider to make sure that these are in place? So I think that that's the other part of it is, you know, like you said, some people sat back and did nothing, thinking that it wasn't even an option that we'd come back. Other people have been proactive and put together. I talked to one high school, and there was a teacher that reached out and was like, look, I just got my schedule for how I'm going to teach in person and virtual. How am I going to make this work and that? And then I have somebody else reach out and say, we have no schedules over here. We don't know what we're doing. Like, how do we end up in this position? You know, I know we have all these schools, but how is the message getting so conflicted from one school to the next that one school has a laid out plan, things are ready to roll and go, and another has nothing? So what'd you say?
It was hoping and pleading.
Right. And I think that that's the thing. Like, it's tough. And that's part of why it was tough for me. I know there were so many people hoping that a no came out of my mouth, so that it wouldn't even be an option.
I'm surprised you were yelling at you from where I was sitting, because I was yelling at you.
I know. And when you reached out, look, and I can take a lot of stuff from a lot of people, but yours, you know, we love each other. And I know that no matter anything will ever change what we went through to get where we are as educators. But I do. I honestly took everything that you sent me, every conversation, our personal phone call. I took it to heart, and that's why it breaks me down. But I teach as well, and my school told me I'm headed back April 5th, and we don't have a piece of paper that says what PPE we getting, what we're going to end up doing. Like, and so it is tough to make these decisions, but I don't think that it's all hope is lost. It's, here's your date. Let's step it up. Central office, get people what they need to make this work, because it has been proven that it can be done successfully. It can be done safely. And that, you know, we can operate and bring some kids back to get what they need in these last 6 to 8 weeks to kind of wrap up 2020.
Can I ask you something though? Because for me, I've been kind of resting on this thing. Last year, when we went out on NTI, it was James Craig. He said it himself, and I remember it like it was yesterday. He said, at what point in the year are we gonna call it quits and stop dragging parents along and pushing the date out? At what point do we say we're gonna call it for the year and we'll just continue the year with NTI? And here we are in March, talking about taking our kids back for the last 6 weeks, 2 days per week, 12, 16 days total max. What happened to that same energy? You know, where it was, why drag? Now we have teachers who are struggling to find childcare because now their child is going to go hybrid, and their first or second grader who has been home with them this whole year is now going to be in school face-to-face 2 days, home 3 days. And yes, if they're lucky enough to have an older sibling, they can stay with them. But if they're not, now they're forced to try and find childcare. And now we've made that load even heavier for another group of families who, other families have figured it out at this point. They've gone through some things and this worked and this didn't work. And so they've figured out how to roll with the punches. And now here we go, upsetting the apple cart all over again. I just, whew, it's a lot. It's a lot, Joe. I know you get it. Yeah.
No, it is a lot. And it's, once again, I first of all, I never thought I'd have to try to help a district navigate a pandemic. But I knew there would be some times where there had to be some tough decisions. And I think that it got to the point where I think that certain things happened in our society, namely vaccines, namely more understanding of virus spread. Now, we can get into the conversation of, whose information do we trust? And that's another conversation about equity. But I think that there are a lot of things that happened that started pushing a lot of major districts to come back. And so it did. It puts a lot of pressure on local boards to try to find a way to make it work for what's best for your district overall. Once again, I don't think that there was a right answer to this. I think, yes or no, either way, you got people on both sides on each issue, but, the best we can do is make sure that people are safe. Because it's proven if we do this safely and we have the right mitigation in place and the right PPE, and we have plans that can be followed, that it can be done safely. A lot of our kids, I've got kids that come to my NTI classes every day. They're at, learning hubs. So, they've been in rooms with other kids, mass, doing work for certain times during this pandemic. But I mean, I agree. I wish we weren't even at the point where we started to make this push and just called it, a month ago. But, a lot of things happened that changed perspectives. But I don't mean to cut my time short. I know it's 5:30 now. I got family waiting on dinner.
Well,
Daddy does the cooking. But I'll take a couple more questions.
and I want to just maybe take a broader look at this too and say, these are all people who have great ideas that need to be at the table. Like I've got 3 ideas I want to run past you and some bill strategies I need to talk to you about. And we've been shut out of so many conversations that here we are finally getting a chance to sit down with you. And it's too much for us to try to cover in such a short time. And then on top of that, we haven't been able to speak at board meetings in a year, so rank and file teachers, parents, stakeholders, we've all been shut out. Grassroots groups, we've not only been ignored, like they've gone out of their way to stomp on us every chance they get. And it's really been frustrating for me because I'm sitting here with my list of notes that I've compiled and I know I didn't get a chance to rattle through them. And then we've got 6 or 7 other people on the call who probably feel the same way. And in fact, one of your constituents just joined the call. I'd like to at least get her to have a chance to introduce herself. Dr. Johnson, are you on? I'm gonna put her on the spot because she just came in and I don't want her to not get a chance to say hello to you. I don't know if you guys have met.
Yes, we have spoke on Facebook a couple times at this point.
Dr. Johnson, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. I don't know what questions have been asked, but I had a PD, so I'm just here listening. Thank you, Joe.
No, good to see you, Dr. Johnson.
Continue to represent us.
I honestly, when I tell you, a lot of people get into this stuff because they have political aspirations and it's like the first stepping stone. I honestly got in this to help kids and to understand how education, the system itself works and why things take so long to change. And so, I mean, it's been tough, but that's no excuse for any missteps or any reason why people are upset at this point. I mean, we can do the best we can do, but I do agree, Gay. We any opportunity we can have to further continue to work together, to have conversations. I don't think it's about, because that's the other attitude is that certain political figure, public officials are run by certain groups. And I never want to get to that point. I honestly, I don't think you can make a good assessment unless you've talked to everyone that's been, through this system. So I know that there's a lot of experience in this group that I can benefit from, and I'm open to it. So if we need to schedule a standing Zoom meeting each month, we can do that.
No, I think
I would love that as one of your constituents.
Yes.
Yeah, I would love that.
Zoom channel if you like. You can borrow my Zoom account. When it comes to busing, could the district put out some kind of survey to ask parents that have their own transportation to not use the busing system, and maybe do a survey to find out who's planning on using buses, so that you can kind of start planning now and alleviate some of the pressures on the busing system, and make sure that the buses are in the places where people are going to need them? I really feel like this decision has been prioritizing parents' wants over parents' needs. We've got one group of parents that want certain things, and they're the ones not being even told, wait a minute, you need to get in line. Wait a minute, there are other people that have priorities. They're just being, the hoops are being jumped through, is what it feels like. And so I feel like there's 3 or 4 things that need to be acted on right away. Student assignment. Why are we forcing students to be reallocated to different teachers in different virtual settings when we're about to shift to a new student assignment plan? So are they at least trying to guide toward the new student assignment plan as they make these shifts to get through this hurdle? Or, has student assignment been put on hold because we were told February? These are all still questions that I'd like to see if we can follow up with you on.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like I said, I'm open to making myself available so that we can have these conversations, so that we can talk through, what the district is thinking, but most importantly, what families and those in the community are looking for in order to get results for our kids.
Did you know that KDE spent $75,000 lobbying for House Bill 208? Did you know they were behind that bill?
So KDE did?
That's what my understanding is. And I think that was to get the amendment added. And I think they're saying that Regina Huff is maybe being backed by KEA, or somehow there's some money being put behind, because it was initially a GOP bill that was intended to make up the funding. It was a funding bill. And then when they added that amendment, now the GOP wants that bill killed. So there's just all kinds of dynamics going on that are just fascinating.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the thing too. Yeah, no, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that start to happen that you get wind of, but you don't know, who you should listen to, what you should trust.
Right. Well, I think we need that bill because it's how we fund, according to the GOP guy I was listening to. That's how we close the funding gap, because Andy was supposed to reopen schools February 1st. And so the SEEK formula, he's been breaking the law ever since. And that's why this pressure is so great, is because he continues to break the law by not requiring everybody to go back to school because of the NTI exemptions have been taken away from him. He can't use his executive power anymore, right? That's what this is really all about. And then I just have one last question for you. I know you got to go. Did you know Diane Porter was going to vote no?
There had been conversations behind who was going to vote which way. And so I think you get wind of what people might do. But, in the end, I mean, you kind of, once again, as we've said before, you vote your conscience and vote, for yourself.
Do you think she would have voted yes if you'd have voted no, because she knew that the district needed to go back?
I don't know if she would have done that. I think there was a general consensus among the board that we're gonna go back eventually. some way, some form, some fashion, we're going back before the end of the year. So I think the major question was, do we approve it now, or do we give more time to figure some other things out? And so, you know, I think that was more of the conversation, was not a vote for whether or not we come back, but versus which plan we would approve to come back.
Yeah. I just feel like it's a racial equity issue. And if people had known that Diane was going to vote no, maybe more people would have supported her and we'd have wound up with a no vote. Like, we should be backing up our Black voices, right? I mean, siding with the marginalized is what we're supposed to be doing in it.
Yeah, well, and that's, you know, for a Black board member representing the district that I represent, that's the pressure that is on my shoulders. Is I've got one side that says I need to side with the Black people, you know, do everything for the Black folk. And then I've got a district that is split down the middle between our families and our different schools. And so I think that that's the other thing. Like I said, you know, this was our opportunity to put some dates on the board to get some things moving. And if a reconsideration needs to be made on March 9th, you know, I'm prepared to stand in that place to offer the reconsideration that if it looks like we're not going to be ready by those start dates.
Well, we will definitely be watching and continue to communicate with you our concerns.
Okay, yeah, no, reach out. I try to respond to everything and everyone, and be that person who really is trying to listen and make the best decisions.
All right, thank you, Joe. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What'd you think? I didn't want to let him go.
I heard some sincerity there.
Ain't gonna let you hold him down too long. What'd you say?
I heard some sincerity there. I mean, he was keeping it simple. And I think, you know, I think he was authentic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that it was a difficult decision. And he addressed the political part of it. And it's clear that he did not go into it thinking he was going to be a politician. And I think he kind of, to a certain degree, kind of feels like one. So, you know what I mean? So I get it and I understand. But again, I firmly believe that if you keep the main thing, I just don't think you can go wrong. It's kind of like if you're a parent and what you're doing for your kids. And we're all in this space parents, like at least moms. And think about when you have gotten your back against the wall in regards to caring for your family. You keep the main thing, and it always works out. Am I right? Am I wrong? It always works out when you put your kids and your family first. It always works out, right? And I think that that's the message we need to give these people, as these leaders, is that, hey, keep the main thing. And we'll be less likely to be distracted.
I think he said a couple things you need to follow up with and keep him to his word. He said he's willing to be the board member that challenges when they come back and say, oh, we're 20 nurses short, custodial hours down. And he's just somebody that needs that monthly discussion that he said he's willing to have. I think to hear more voices. I mean, he's just got he brings his perspective, and I think he would benefit from some more community conversation and hearing from other people on perspectives. I think it's a perspective thing. I believe when he said he voted it.
Absolutely. Like, Yvonne, you look like you're trying to say something, but I can't.
I am trying to say something. You know, when you live in a neighborhood, you know where the car backups are going to be. You know that the backups are going to be on Hurstburn Lane.
My house.
There's two backups here. You know, the backups are going to be on Hurstburn Lane and Bardstown Road. We know where the backups are going to be. You know, they're not going to be on Cherokee Parkway. Okay, they're just not. The two backups are the buses. I mean, we know where they're going to be. The buses and the custodians. That's where they're going to be. I think the pressure on Marty and his subordinates are to say it's all good.
Yeah, of course. And they can fake their way through no custodians, you know, just put more burden on teachers. Nobody will know.
I think that number of bus drivers is going to start growing in need as well, because the bus drivers, there's a lot of grumbling on they're finding out that they get ready to stick sick kids behind them on the bus, or that they're going to be expecting them to come and pick up a sick kid whose parents can't come and get them from school and bring them home. They're going to send a bus driver to go pick them up from the building and then take them to the house. Kids who failed 2 temperature checks at over 100 degrees each.
The thing about it is, before the pandemic, it wasn't working with the custodians or the bus drivers. So it amazes me that now it's supposed to magically work. How? Because I remember many days they told us that a custodian was sick, they didn't have any subs. So please straighten up your offices and your classrooms because there will be no custodian tonight.
Exactly. You just roll up your trash. You need to take your trash and put it outside because they're down to 1 custodian.
Yeah. Teachers on our CRC talked to our plant operator and said that he's just been instructed to use the same old pink stuff that he's always used to clean rooms. There's nothing different. And then one of our night custodians said that there's only 1 sanitizing gun, and with the amount of square footage in our building, there's no way possible that they're going around spraying every room. So we might as well forget that. So in my head, they're not even trying to have that conversation as to how to get it done. It's just like, it ain't happening. Oh, well, we're done. Not even to say, okay, well, on Mondays and Tuesdays, we can do these rooms, and on Wednesdays and Thursdays. I mean, not even to try to figure it out. It's just like, no way to do it, make it. And then if they're not on CRCs, their unions have not asked to be a part of the CRC team to be able to help make decisions or to even understand what we are trying to take, which we're trying to do. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't see how we're going to do this safely. I don't.
And then the majority of the bus drivers and custodians are minorities.
Right.
So then they're going to be blamed when this plan fails. How can that be?
Not fair.
I wonder about that, because I wonder if Sue Foster went to Brent or if Brent went to Sue Foster.
Sue Foster seems to be everywhere though. She's been on been on more board meetings than Brent has lately.
So what's the deal with the president of? Are the custodians SEIU?
Yes. Sue Foster has asked me, which is the bookkeepers, secretaries.
Yeah.
That's how come they got on the CRCs. But my CRC is imbalanced, is not balanced right now. I have 3 administrators, the secretary, the school nurse, and then 3 teachers.
There's no parents in any of these meetings, by the way.
None. I didn't even get to open that door because I asked for a custodian and I was told, no, let's just roll with it like we have it right now. I didn't even open the door for parents yet because I was thinking they're still pressuring me to get SBDM stuff done, even though we're not even a sitting SBDM because we are an AIS school. They want me to do SBDM training. That's one way we could have used the parents that are on SBDM right now as being a part of this committee.
Yeah, of course, of course. Your SBDM should definitely be part of your reopening.
You would think.
And Greg, you were working on something with Eros, right?
With regard to what?
You were gonna write, in fact, I think you did
Oh,
write.
yeah, we got something sent to the board members around the need, the concern about, it's going to end up with a bunch of finger pointing. We're understaffed. We're making these magic promises that we're going to get there. And it's going to, you're right, Kimberly. I mean, how are we going to point the finger at teachers, bus drivers, and custodians but that's what's setting
Right.
up right
When it's all.
Or
been-
have each of those groups pointing at each other.
They say when you point your one finger at one person, all the other fingers are pointing back at you.
I mean,
Well,
and there's no point.
done. I mean, yeah.
There's no point pointing. It's like saying, again, I'll use Bardstown this time, so I don't offend gay. You know,
I'm not offended.
who are you going to blame if Bardstown Road's cut down from 3 lanes to 1? Because there's an accident. I mean, it is what it is. It's nobody's fault that there's not enough custodians.
But it is somebody's fault because they're not.
No, but I'm saying it's not the custodian's fault. It's not the teacher's fault.
They're
You know,
where they're ready.
we,
It is
those people should not end up under a bus. They didn't cause this accident.
And one thing I wanted to say to Joe, and I just remembered that I forgot when Kimberly started talking, and that was the safe doesn't just mean safe from COVID. Our schools have not been safe for Black and brown and poor and marginalized community members, teachers and students but since before the pandemic. And so they're acting like, oh, if we just get masks, everything will be okay, and he's oversimplifying it. And in fact, it's the fact that he's new kind of makes me think that he doesn't know how severe. He does know. How can he not know?
I'm not gonna lie, you guys. I am hashtag over it for the day. I like for real. I can't draw another ounce of energy on the return right now because I am completely like my anxiety has been so high for so many weeks that I feel like I'm falling flat. Like I just got out of our CRC meeting, stuff that I needed us to discuss didn't get discussed. Stuff that needed to be discussed did, but it's like we're still that much further away from a safe plan. And I need to preserve some self-care time right in
Well,
here.
you look fabulous for your self-care. I'm over here fighting an allergic reaction to something I was in. I know, that's why I sound like crap. My voice is going down. No.
Kenyatta always looks good.
Kenyatta
Honest to
is like-
gosh. Here I am,
like a
one of
little
these
Mary Kay
damn
person.
eyelashes came off.
You look like a little Mary Kay. You look like a little Mary Kay consultant.
Yeah, Yvonne does. You do.
No, I'm talking about you, Kenyatta. You like, Yvonne, you look like a little Mary Kay consultant. Yvonne just needs to just go somewhere and just post up in Macy's at the Mac counter.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. A lick of makeup hasn't touched his face in months. So
Girl, you look gorgeous. That means you got it going on.
You
Juices
look
and
gorgeous.
berries.
I
Juices
started
and
wearing
berries.
makeup with COVID. I'm saying with these Zoom things, because you know how they zoom in on your face and you go, holy moly, who's that scary lady? And it's
gonna get me a
you.
light.
It's like, oh no.
Yvonne, I'm gonna get that little ring light. I'm gonna get me a ring light.
Those things, hey, all the YouTube people who are in the know have one of those.
I'm gonna order me one off of Amazon.
You guys, there's some things happening that we need to make some decisions on today. We can't wait a week. So I know
Okay.
get off. Let's get our agenda going and then we can. We need an opt-out game plan so that we can start framing the narrative and shifting the conversation to opting out and keeping kids home and supporting Tyra and Kumar in their brave stance that I talked about at the beginning of this call. Greg had said he was up for a town hall. I think we can do that closer to when school is actually like resuming, especially if it's around testing. Like once we see testing, although we may want to encourage people on how to stay home too. What?
We need parents to start making that call now, though, because right now administrators are going to have as many teachers back in the building as they can right now. And if everybody at the last minute flips and stays virtual, and all of those teachers who chose to go back, or not chose, but are going back in front face to face, if they get in those buildings and they have 5, 6, 7 kids in their classroom, and then all the other kids remain virtual, and there's not a balance there.
So it's
Yeah,
not
that's
just about
stressful.
testing. We want them to stay home. We want to teach them how to keep their kids home even when there's not a test.
I mean, we need to really take a look at what are they really gonna get from face
Did
to
you all hear about the, I know I was working with Adrian. Glassby is putting together a informational or something for parents. Did you all hear about that?
No.
I apologize for my voice. But yeah, so Adrian, I think she's getting with Kentucky Alliance, or waiting till tonight for them to see if they want to be on it as well. And it's just, trying to have a conversation about ways to move forward, whether that be, people stand out in front of the board, how to get up, getting a permit, what is it that we can do? So,
Call sooner rather than later, instructing parents on what their options are and what they're going to get and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So should we wait and see what Glavsy's proposing? Is that tonight at the Alliance board?
I think she's waiting to figure out what they're gonna, I think they're waiting to see I think they're waiting tonight for their okay. But I think it would be, because it sounds to me that I was talking to a parent it's a white parent, and she was a friend of a friend. There's some other like side groups, I think, who are like, I don't want to go back, and parents are talking about like, I'm not getting other parents together to say like, don't go to school. And then I heard the hush hush, and these were not black spaces, these were white spaces, of saying things like, they're trying to explore the JCTA thing. So you have to have 3 days. You have to be out 3 days before you can get a doctor's note, right? So they're saying if they go back virtual, those teachers technically could call in every other day, every day that it's virtual. I mean, every day that it's in person. Does that make sense?
But then use up all their sick leave is the problem.
Right, but they're talking about the people who have the days to do it. So I don't know. But I'm
But
just
it's
saying,
better than doing FMLA unpaid. I'm just saying.
right, that's what they're saying. So that was what some white teachers were telling me that today.
Could organize a sick out, or maybe the students could organize a sick out, but they're choosing. So we're just saying keep doing NTI, like they're allowed to stay home. Students are allowed to keep doing NTI, so they're not really doing any kind of conscientious objecting. There's no moral, and we could do the moral imperative thing and say switch your choice to staying home.
Oh, the hair. Thank you.
Just like with the bus we're doing, we're encouraging people to not take the bus right now.
Where was your hair?
But what you were saying too, though, Gay, what you were saying to lead off of that, you know how they do for parent-teacher conference? What they do is they say, if your child has a C, we only want to meet with children or parents who have a C or below, right? So I guess my point is, leading off of what you were saying, that reminded me of, why could we not do that for JCPS? Kids who are struggling with NTI and are struggling, with their grades, why would we not have that encouragement that only to send those kids back? The kids who are struggling,
right?
No matter what they look like, instead of just.
Yeah, that has to be a plea. That has to be coming from maybe groups like ours, because I don't think the district could do that, because that would look like they're, trying to get out of doing the work, or, not offering equitable access, because
they already send those letters home to parents as it is. Those players go home to parents. Like my kid I couldn't get, that was, I have to pick it up a day.
I don't know what you're saying. I can't really understand you very well.
Parent-teacher conference day?
Yeah.
They sent home letters basically telling you if your kid has an A or a B, don't come.
Oh, well, that's manual. Not everybody's doing it.
No. Other schools do, elementary schools do it. Yeah, I get it. I got those letters when my son was
But
in
you're
elementary
just talking
school.
about parent teacher.
But the
You're
thing
talking
is, why can't they do the same thing? What you're saying for the buses, why can't they just encourage that period for
Yeah,
everything?
but they should do that for NTI and buses. And so what I was saying, I don't think they're smart enough to do it for buses. And that's why I suggested it to Joe, and we'll see if he takes it back to anybody, figuring out that they can. But for classes, I don't think they can, because they don't want to look like they're trying to get out of teaching in person, and they can't make it look like they're being inequitable. Everybody who wants to come to class gets to come to class. You know, they're not going to tell people, rich white people, to keep their kids home when that's who's banging the drum. But I think a group like us could. Like, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying the district is not going to send a letter home to parents saying, keep your kids home if they're making these. I just don't think they will, because of all the political maneuvers.
Yeah.
But we could, you know, we could make that part of our town hall message. So we're talking about doing a virtual work day on Friday, March 12th, getting teachers to work remote. When do we want to try to plan a town hall then?
And the town hall would be on opt-out, right?
Well, I think it'd be bigger. I think it would be like what Kenyatta was saying about keep your kids home, just like what Tyra and Kumar said yesterday. Keep your kids home. It's not safe. If you are making A's and B's, keep your kids home. Like, that's part of our message. We try to get as many people to stay home so that the district doesn't even have that many people in person, because the more people in person, the greater the risk, period, no matter what. So it's whether we get it down to where there's one kid per school, you know, that would be our goal. And then then they would be keeping more teachers remote as well. So we're kind of Nemo swimming down. Liv, do you want to say anything before you need to go?
Sorry, I couldn't get my thing on mute for a second. I thought talking to Joe Marshall was really exciting.
Good.
I'm not sure where I got cut off. I thought discussion with Joe Marshall was actually really exciting. I know a lot of my friends were really happy with the way that he voted last week. I have to say I disagree. I was kind of hoping to finish the year out online, just because I've gotten used to it, and I think it's the safest option. So I thought that was a little disappointing, but I do think that he sounded well prepared, and he didn't really seem like hesitant about any answers, and he seemed to be willing to listen. So I really appreciate that. And I think that's really nice to see in a JCPS board member. Yeah, I really enjoyed our discussion today.
Yeah, good point. Good point. We'll give him credit for that.
And, you know, there are really two experiences here. If your mom is dropping you off, you know, I'm talking about elementary, but it really applies everywhere. If your mom is dropping you off and picking you up, you are going to be way safer than anybody on a bus. Because right now, I mean, they were 3 to a bus when there were just barely enough bus drivers. Nobody gets sick, please. Which we wish we were at. So I don't see a scenario where you're not packing 3 little kids on a seat.
Right. Yeah. I think we need to have a moral imperative plea that we start right away. Keep your kids off the bus, keep your kids home.
I know the bus that I ride, I don't drive to school. It's typically through to a seat. And if I were to go back to school, I know there's some days where we were planning to do some like COVID safe, like senior events, trying to salvage our senior year. And those were the days that I had planned on going to school. And on those days, my dad said that he would have to take me, because riding on the bus with 3 to a seat, I think would necessarily make my parents comfortable, and I probably would have a panic attack. So,
see, and the district could be surveying parents now and finding out that maybe 90% or this part of the neighborhoods, or, you know, and adjust their plans accordingly. They could be proactively finding that out.
I think parents do not know. I wrote a piece for Bruce that I don't know when it's going to run based on that. People think we're Denmark. No. Well, if we were going to be Denmark, it wouldn't start now. You know, your kids aren't going to be 6 feet apart. They're just not. You know, you're thinking about the CDC guideline where you have one kid in one seat, the next seat's empty, and the next seat has a kid on it. Hard no on that one. You know, they're not going to have social time at any of the meal times, not breakfast or lunch. You got to stay 6 feet apart, and you cannot talk with their mask off because that will kill somebody. I mean, they think it's going to be, I don't know what. It's not going to, whatever you think it's going to be, it's not going to be that. You know, I don't know how you're going to do recess. I mean, do you really want little grubby COVID hands on the monkey bars, and then the next group of kids gets on the monkey bars? No. So I don't even know what recess is going to look like. But I don't see swings and slides.
Each school is probably going to look different, right, Yvonne? And I think that's what parents need to do, is to just ask, maybe in our message too to others, is to say, ask specific questions to your school. Like, what does my child's recess look like? And ask them via email, so it's open records. Don't get on the phone to make phone calls, so that they have to answer that. And then they should tell their friends to ask, to send an email and ask the same questions and ask different people in the building. And then they should compare their answers. And then they should challenge them on it and hold them accountable that way. You know, because I mean, just think about it. Like the message we're hearing from Joe Marshall is, there's a lot of inconsistencies. Why does one school have a glowing back to school plan and another does not?
Right.
Is it accountability? What is that? Hold these people accountable where we can. If they're not going to hold them accountable, we can, as people say, hey, could you tell me? If they're asking you who your kid is, that don't matter who my kid is. Because first thing, who's your child? Okay, it don't matter. Ask the plan is.
Exactly. There are buildings that are going to let parents in.
It's always the same kids.
Wilder's not, but you know, since the district left it up to them, somebody's going to do that.
But we should let that information get out, because then
exactly
parents are going to be mad. They're going to be like, well, hold on. How can this parent go and I can't go get my kid? My kid's important too. I mean, it's just how it's going to go. That mommy piece is going to thrash. And we need to hit them in the mommy belt to make them respond. They'll get with them when it comes to stuff like that. You'll get every mama out there on that kind of stuff.
You know, we do not need parents in the building. And I don't mean, it's not anything against parents, but I mean outside adults. You know.
Well, we don't, but what they're going to do, but then there needs to be a plan in, though. And these are things. What happens when that little kindergarten or that first grader pees his or her pants? Who's changing the child? You see what I mean? So these parents and people need to ask those very specific questions, because what does that teacher know? You're still responsible, because they're being told, don't touch the kids. But now you're going to have to touch them in soiled clothes. You see what I mean? I just think those are conversations that needs to transpire.
You know, we've got gloves and all kinds of, we're elementary, you know. So we got gloves and all that kind of thing. And I know Miss Robin's going to end up with that job. Bless you, Robin. But, you know, I think people in other schools need to ask, are you going to be letting in non-essential adults?
I agree.
You know, because I wouldn't want them in there. You know, I'm a parent and I'm going to give up my right to go in there, so nobody else does it either.
Exactly. I think
Don't bring in my COVID germs with me.
I think
What
that's
happens when your kid leaves their lunch at home?
take it to the front door.
Take it to the what? That's what we're doing. You don't even leave your car. We come to your car for you. Thank you very much. You don't even have to get out of your car. You and your COVID germs can stay right there.
Kenyatta, is this something that the CRCs could discuss or even be participants in a town hall where they talk about these things? Because these are all best practices. Like, we all should be sitting in these Zoom calls, and when somebody says, well, what about this? Then somebody says, well, this is what we're doing. Kind of like what it sounds like you're doing on your CRC calls. But parents need that kind of feedback. Parents need to hear what your recommendations are, and the fact that there should be no parents in the building, and we all need to make these sacrifices, and we all need to be asking these questions of our administration, because, you know, your building may be okay, but theirs isn't. So let's help them get their building, you know, asking the right questions, that kind of thing. Is that something you could see teachers coming on and helping with a town hall?
Probably.
Or is it just us? I mean, are we sufficient?
I mean, now I definitely, like, I'm always going to advocate for more voices is better than less, honestly, because me, Yvonne, and Greg have been inundated in the return plans. We've been talking about it for weeks now. I think that we're well versed in it, but other people need to.
She froze up.
Oh, I thought it was me.
No, while we're waiting for her to come back, be looking at these other things on this screen. There's 4 bills I wanted to talk about real quick. And I think Greg, we have to go off to a Alliance board meeting tonight, don't we? In like 15 minutes.
No, that's tomorrow night, isn't it? Did I miss that memo?
They
Oh,
said tonight. Joe
oh,
Marshall was, oh, no, Nicole was saying it's tonight.
I think it's tonight. I could have sworn Adrian said that she was waiting to hear back from them at their meet after their meeting tonight.
Goodness. Okay.
I don't know.
I had another one. It's normally Tuesdays. My personal email's been piling up, but I didn't see that.
I could be wrong. I could have sworn that's what she said yesterday.
So, okay, sorry. HB 208, I asked Joe quickly about it. I watched a video today of some GOP radical who was talking about why they wanted House Bill 108 in the first place was to force everyone back to school. That's why, or 208, that's why they invented the bill, was to force everyone to go back into in-person schooling. And then when they added that amendment and made it fungible, they were like, kill the bill, because all it's really doing is letting them extend their SEEK formula. It's a funding bill. They're admitting it was a funding bill to allow us to have SEEK funding during Andy's non-authorized exemptions that he's making. So that was really fascinating. If anybody's interested in that link.
I would love to see it, by the way. Send it to me if you can.
I did put it in the Save Our Schools executive.
Okay, then I'll find it there.
I was just asking, where is the union? Why aren't they supporting Tyra and Kumar on keeping vulnerable educators out of the classroom and students out of the classroom? And I wonder if because KDE spent $75,000 lobbying to get the version of the bill that's out there, they have to be quiet because they can't go against KDE, which I would assume is in lockstep with KEA. There's just stuff to watch there. It's really confusing because the bill got poisoned and it actually sounds like it's going to work for us now, which is fascinating. Although we're still bending and bowing to it as if it's official. So therefore, we went ahead and passed the return to school plan because we thought House Bill 208 was going to pass. Like, it's just crazy how backwards we do this shit. Oh, right here, this link. I will share, what I'll do is share this link or in chat, the 29 to 32 minute mark. It's only 3 minutes that I thought was really the most interesting, Yvonne. So if you wanted to watch that, or if we have time, we can do it today. But just really wacko dude talking about all his beliefs and stuff. The whole thing is really interesting. HB 579 is the opt-out bill. I don't know what BLM's rationale is, but in all the spaces that I've seen Chanel, she's talking about not supporting House Bill 579. And I think it's mainly just because of resources being spread too thin and we can't worry about this particular bill. But the thing is I think this bill has a greater chance. And if nothing else, it keeps the dialogue, it holds people accountable, it gets people on record. I think we need to be having these conversations to weed out who the sabotageurs are, for lack of a better term. So if anybody has any ability to get through to Chanel and ask her to just maybe just not talk negative about it, because we're working on some things. We don't need allies sabotaging us. So that concerned me that she's going out of her way to talk like 579 doesn't have any.
Why? I don't understand. I didn't think they supported standardized testing.
She didn't say it like she was opposed to the concept of the bill. She just wants us to focus on other stuff. But the thing is she hasn't been in some of these conversations where we know if we can get Nemus on the corner pocket, Nemus in the corner pocket, then we see which way he plays his ball.
Has Kenyatta talked to him yet? You know they're tight buds.
Kenyatta just came back in. I think she was locked up. Are you back?
He's laughing, so she heard what I said.
I don't know what happened.
I think Tyra needs to go to Brent and ask.
I backed up laughing today because that is not my friend.
I know, I was joking, but he does listen to you.
Who?
But
Nemus, at least he pretends to.
Here's the thing is Jason is arrogant, and he would likely speak to anybody that he thinks he knows more than, just to have his way of trying to demonstrate how witty he can be.
That sounds like a, yeah. Sure, Jason.
I still love the library event where we, meet your legislators, and some of us went to meet our legislators at the Juneau Road branch, whatever that name of that branch is.
Middletown Library. Yeah.
Yep, he was there. Julie Rocky Adams was there. WFPL and the investigative reporting team was there, like broadcasting live or something. I don't know. They had a room in the back going on where they had a little media reporting session. And because they came out and talked to us about how to debunk fake news. And so as soon as the microphone got turned over to them, Jacob Ryan got up and said, one example of fake news you just heard from your legislator, Jason Nemus, and here's the actual truth behind that.
Oh, really? How fun is this?
Awesome. And I have the recording. I shared it once, but I don't know where it is now. But yeah, that's he was just out there making shit up on the fly, because that's what they do.
That's what they do.
WFPL caught him in the act. It was awesome. But I think that we know that Jason Nemus knows how to shop committees because he did it for Senate Bill 250. So if Tyra goes to Brent and says, ask your buddy Jason to shop committees for House Bill 579, and then see what excuse he comes up with, then we've got him. We can show that they're not being authentic. They're making shit up. And by the way, I want to tell another story before we jump off. I know we're running out of time. But there's another teacher who called me today who found out that Jason Nemus's wife got a choice ESL position in the district, and she doesn't have near the qualifications as other people who applied. And so was the district responsible for that? Was Brent McKim involved in that somehow? Because, we owe Jason Nemus a favor, so let's just give his wife this choice assignment. But either way, something isn't right. It's not right.
Something isn't right.
And so, you know, let's keep pushing on these things until we get them backed into enough corners where they're pointing fingers at each other instead of telling us we're crazy. Right? So that's why these leverage points, that's what I meant by leverage points when I wrote that down, is because we may not win, but we gotta back people into enough corners where we see who is who and where everyone else sees who is who, because we're really that close. We're really that close to it being Marty Polio, Brent McKim, Jason Nemus, Julie Rocky Adams, Morgan McGarvey. Morgan needs to choose a side. We need to have these conversations and have Morgan tell us whose side he's on. I want him to come to our next Zoom call, by the way. And then also getting Tina to talk to Osborne so we can be working that bill from multiple angles and see who comes through for us and who doesn't. Take note when they don't, because they're lying. They're lying if they say, oh, it has to come out of Education Committee, which is what they're telling us. No, we've seen Jason Nemus get Julie Rocky Adams to
Excuse me, nothing having to do with education has been coming out of the Education Committee in 2 years.
Bullshitting us.
Excuse me, it was coming out of the Veterans Affairs Committee. What kind of bullshit is that?
There's another bill to make sure that seniors who didn't get their prom get to go back to school and finish their prom this year. Talk about priorities. We are prioritizing kids who missed out on their prom, and Max Wise gave a brilliant, heart-wrenching speech about his seniors that his daughter knows. She's not going to do it, you know, so it's not about him, but his daughter's classmates, you know, are missing out on all these horrible things. They didn't get to play in sports, and, you know, they put these memorial uniforms on the field to memorialize all the players who didn't get to play. It's really kind of gross because those are one.
Oh, Max, I'm glad you clarified. I thought those uniforms were there for all the people in your district who died.
Right. This is what we need to be exposing, is how they're elevating their privileged white concerns over the lives of our most vulnerable and over the education of our most vulnerable and over the safety, and have been. Like, this is not new.
They did not invent this now.
So let's see, Brianna's Law. Is anybody able to go to Frankfurt tomorrow? You guys want to do a practice remote work session? I'll let you use my Wi-Fi hotspot.
That would be nice. We're down to one car is the problem.
Does anybody know what time it is?
Bill, because when I go Friday, I'm gonna have to drive down with you because Bluey, you know Bluey, my little car, goes as it's driving. So Phil and Bill, you know, went down with the van and Bluey and dropped Bluey off. So we are now down to the van. Let me see if Phil's working tomorrow.
All right, let me know.
He usually works on Tuesdays.
We need to find out what time and have a plan. And I'm going to go and just live stream if nothing else. So I just want to observe it so that when we go do ours, we've got an idea of what it looks like.
They're letting me in the building as a kind of a extra unofficial setup day, because I've got a ton of stuff that I can't use this year that I have to move out of there. So I'm sorry I can't make it tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Brianna, do you guys know what's wrong with the Senate version of Brianna's Law? Have you guys heard? And the rift?
The deal with the thing is
it doesn't say her name.
Right.
It doesn't just not say her name. The Brianna's Law completely stops no-knock warrants. You cannot do them anymore. The Senate version puts in a bunch of hoops you have to jump through and makes it harder to do a no-knock, but you still can. You have more hoops to run through, but it has to be imminent danger. I forgot all the bullshit they put in there, but you can still, it cuts down on them, but you can still have them.
Well, and
Can't do them at night. There's a bunch of hoops you have to jump through, blah, blah. It's better than what we have. Don't think it's not, but it's not as good.
Stivers is not somebody who can be trusted also. So just the fact that he's offering it shows that he's trying to take the wind out of what Attica's doing. And ACLU called it a victory. So that was a misstep from what I could tell just from my observations.
That's a misstep.
And so there's a little rift between the Attica supporters and the Keturah supporters right now. Is anybody else noticing that? Greg, do you see that? Do you see what I see? You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I saw it from another angle. I did get a text urging me to support Senate Bill 4 from Everytown, which is typically would be HB 21 territory for me. It is curious.
So that must be because they took a cue from ACLU. Attica's not happy.
Attica's not happy. They're thinking it's better than what we have now. It is better than what we have now. But why couldn't we get the best? They never settle for, well, it's half a loaf. No, they want a whole loaf. And by the way, your loaf looks pretty good too.
Right.
I want 2 loaves.
Have you guys seen this data?
No.
I got this from an open records request today. I didn't know it existed until I did my little open records request. I was trying to recreate Olivia Krauth's data, this one, because Shawnee being 12% caught my attention. And I realized that this is capacity, not compared to current enrollment. So these are misleading numbers. Shawnee's capacity is twice what their current enrollment is because of the renovations, because they had ESL in there. So to imply that it's only 12% full when it's 50% full is misleading. So when I made an open records request to try to get the actual numbers they used to create that chart. And they sent me this, which shows the actual responses. How many are in person, how many are virtual, and how many have actually replied. You can hover and it even gives you the numbers. So 53% in person, Newburgh. You see that, Kenyatta? Is that similar to what you're expecting?
Yeah, we're right now we're at 45%. Maybe that's updated since the other day when we met as a committee.
They didn't tell me when this was as of. What the
Yeah.
Where's Shawnee? And you only have 77% that responded.
Yeah, we had like almost 300 that hadn't responded yet.
Why isn't Shawnee even on there? Oh, there it is. What have I done here? Okay. See, that's 53 and 47. That's not 12. See, yeah, that's why that lady on your post said this was misleading, Yvonne.
I just got it from the CJ, except I've forgotten that's where I stole it.
This data is misleading because I know for a fact, like at my school, they're not showing the percentage of parents that haven't responded to the survey yet.
Well, they do. They just don't, you have to hover to get it. Let's see. See if you think it's accurate. Let me look at,
Well, when you just looked at Shawnee, let me see. It looked like it was 100% when you count the in-person and virtual. And I know they don't have 100% count yet.
93%.
47 and 53.
Right. Well, of the 93 that have responded, 47 said in person and 53 said virtual, as opposed to them keeping X% out. I see what you're saying.
So yeah, that's tricking people too.
Yeah, you're right. They're assuming that those who haven't answered will all answer along the same lines as the averages. Whereas the people who haven't answered are probably not coming back.
Right.
No, the people that haven't answered don't check emails. Like JCPS, anything is spam to them.
So they're probably not coming back. They're more likely.
No, they just probably haven't been able to.
What do you think?
I just don't think I wouldn't be surprised if a number of them don't show up that day. I think my principal is going to err on the side of caution and just count them in the in-person numbers, just in case.
Yeah.
Because she would rather afford us to have more bodies than not.
Heck, I don't
Just
even know
out of
if
curiosity,
I don't know if I've done it or
Kenyatta,
not.
which way do you think they're going to jump when it's time?
What, that number?
Yeah, the ones who have not responded, what do you think in the end they'll end up doing? I'm thinking they'll end up coming in person, but I don't know. I'd like to
think
talk
they
to
will
us.
come in person because there's a lot of people who are, I feel like there's a lot of people that are not really weighing out the situation. Like I talked to a parent today who was very much pro coming back to the building because their student needs lots of support. But at the same time, if they were to really be thinking about their situation, back to the building is not a safe place since that person has they have high risk individuals in their household. And so with that being considered, I don't know if when we get closer to that day, they start to think, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. You know, I don't know. But like right now, I'm hearing some people saying they're coming just because they're like, look, you're not doing your work. You're driving me insane. You can't get your stuff done. You're failing. Go back to school. So I think that our numbers could be fluid either way. People who are saying they're coming, and then when they get closer to the day, they might decide, oh crap,
Yep,
this might not be a good idea.
absolutely.
Or they can come one time and then decide, no, I think I'll stay home.
It's not safe, right? I had one more piece of data I wanted to show you. Let me find it. Let me share this screen. If it'll let me.
I've got another meeting to get to. Actually, it
Oh,
started
wow.
30 minutes ago. Keep me apprised.
All right. I think this was what you might have been looking for, Yvonne. Let me see if it'll pull it up. This is the PTA data with sorted by race and sorted by return to school, so that you could compare the number of people planning on going back in person to the number of schools that have high white percentages. And you can see there's a huge correlation like you expected. So I don't know if that was something you were interested in. I just want to show you, I put that together. Did she leave already? All right, I think that's all I had. We just need to keep holding people accountable.
Once again, you guys, thanks for all y'all's support. I love being a part of a collaborative team where we're all using our minds to think about our situations and trying to find solutions. So I appreciate and love all y'all for real, for real. My internet is forsaking me right now, so I'm gonna have to get off
Same
because I
here.
can't use my phone and I need to reboot my entire system here at the house.
All right, we thinking about a virtual town hall day. We could do it on a Monday. We could do it next Monday. Is that too soon? When we already have a standing time, you want to use our standing time to do it? 2 Mondays a
I
week?
think that my school's gonna be using this standing time as well for our CRC committee meetings because we really need lots of time.
Oh, is that a new Monday thing now too?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a definite day and time at this point now. I think we're borrowing time as much as we can from our schedules to be able to plan.
Yeah. So maybe
He
more
hasn't
like,
said it's definite.
maybe like an evening time. Is next Monday too soon? The following Monday better? Right before school starts, we tell people stay home. I think the closer we get to the actual start date, the more people will be stressing and paying attention. So let me look. School's supposed to.
Yeah, I'd like to get Tyra and Kumar's
Yeah.
feedback and see if they'd be interested in leading there.
Okay.
even.
Yeah. Good. Good. All right. I'll reach out. I'll reach out to Tyra and Kumar. I can do that. All right, guys.
All right, y'all have a good night.
You too.
Have a
Take
good night.
care. Thanks.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night, all.